Meanwhile, Amara and Momo sat together in the cafeteria, quietly having lunch. Noticing how absent-minded Amara seemed, Momo leaned in and asked if she was okay. Amara gave a small nod, insisting she was fine, but Momo wasn't convinced. She pressed her further, pointing out that something was clearly bothering her. Amara finally admitted that she was still troubled about the situation with Kevin. Momo asked if she was still upset that Kevin had grown distant after Amara chose another over him. Taking her hand gently, she reassured her that Kevin would eventually come around, and she shouldn't let it weigh so heavily on her. Amara smiled softly and said she hoped so. Wanting to shift the mood, Momo lightened the conversation and asked about the night before, confessing that her memory after Truth or Dare was a blur. She wanted to know who had brought them home and how she ended up in bed. Amara laughed lightly, teasing her that she should have listened when she warned her about drinking too much. She explained that it was liwei who had driven them back. Momo froze in shock, her eyes wide, asking if she really meant the liwei, the university director himself. Worried, she asked if she had embarrassed herself in front of him, but Amara assured her she had simply been passed out the whole time. As they continued eating, liwei walked into the cafeteria with the inspection team. Instantly, the atmosphere shifted as all eyes followed him. Students whispered in hushed tones when they noticed the faint love bites on his neck. Some murmured that whoever left those marks was incredibly lucky, while others speculated that it was proof he was officially dating someone. Amara and Momo both watched him from their seats. For a brief moment his gaze found Amara, and their eyes locked across the room. Heat rushed to her cheeks and she blushed, realizing he had been serious when he said he would walk around with the marks visible as a silent declaration that he was taken. Memories of the night before, their closeness, and the intimacy they had shared flooded her mind, leaving her longing for his embrace once more. Momo, misinterpreting everything, leaned closer and suggested that liwei must have had a passionate night with Yan. She reasoned that since he and Yan had seemed close, perhaps he had returned to her after dropping them off, which would explain the marks on his neck. She glanced at Amara, who was lost in thought, smiling dreamily to herself and completely missing her words. Momo nudged her, asking what she was thinking about. Snapping out of her daydream, Amara quickly brushed it off, claiming she had just thought of something funny, and asked Momo to repeat what she said. Momo explained again that she believed liwei had been with Yan, adding that it was unbelievable they had hung out with someone as prestigious as him the previous night. She teased that Amara was especially lucky to have even sat beside him, something other girls could only dream of. Amara simply smiled and agreed they were lucky, unwilling to reveal that she had been the one to leave the marks on his neck, and that her connection with liwei ran far deeper than Momo could ever imagine. She glanced toward him again, only to find he had already left, leaving her slightly disappointed that she hadn't gotten one last look at him. She returned her attention to her meal, though her thoughts remained elsewhere. Later that night, fresh out of the shower, liwei caught sight of himself in the mirror. He moved closer, fingertips brushing over the faint marks on his neck as flashes of the night before filled his mind. He forced himself to remain composed, reminding himself not to fall too deeply, not to lose sight of his mission. Lying on his bed, he stared at his phone, debating whether or not to text her good night. A simple message felt dangerous, as though it meant surrendering his composure. He set the phone aside, deciding against it. But just as he was about to close his eyes, his phone beeped. A message from her. She had asked what he was up to. He lingered over her words, then allowed himself a reply. He told her he couldn't sleep. Almost instantly, her response came. She offered to come over and help him sleep, saying she had finished her studying for the night. His heart wavered at the thought, but he quickly suppressed the emotions surging through him. Setting the phone aside again, he told himself he was doing too much, that he couldn't allow himself to get too attached. Yet as he lay there in the silence, she consumed his every thought. He slipped on his headphones and tried drowning her out with music, but the distraction only lasted a few minutes. Abruptly, he tore them off and stormed out of bed, unable to resist any longer. Grabbing his car keys, he headed for the door, determination burning in his chest. He could no longer fight the pull she had on him. He needed her near, and the more he tried to suppress it, the stronger his desire for her grew. He stormed out of the room, determined to go and get her. Amara sat in her room, staring at her cell phone, hoping for a message back from Liwei, but there was nothing. A bit disappointed, she thought perhaps he had gone back to sleep, so she got into bed. Momo, who had just walked in, asked her if she was going to sleep early and if she was feeling okay. Amara nodded and explained that she did not feel too well and simply wanted to rest. Momo moved closer, worry written all over her face, and asked again if she was all right or if she needed medication. Not wanting to reveal that her sadness came from not receiving a reply from Liwei, Amara brushed off the concern, saying that it was not that serious, that she would be fine, and that a little sleep would help. Momo reminded her that if it got worse, she should not hesitate to let her know, then walked to her side of the dorm. As Amara lay there, a sudden beep from her phone made her instantly grab it without hesitation. It was him. A huge smile spread across her face as she read his message. He was asking her to come outside. Without wasting a moment, she leapt out of bed with sudden energy, rushing to the closet to find something to wear. Momo, surprised, looked at her and reminded her that she had just said she was unwell and wanted to sleep early, wondering how she could suddenly feel healed. Amara smiled and insisted that she was now okay. Momo watched curiously as she fixed her hair, then moved closer, asking where she was going so suddenly and why she looked so happy. Amara, still smiling, admitted that she was going to see someone. Momo immediately asked if it was her boyfriend, the one who was afraid of showing his feelings. Amara shyly nodded. Excited, Momo asked if she could go along to say hello or at least catch a glimpse of him. Amara quickly brushed off the idea, explaining that he was shy and disliked awkward meetings with new people. She promised that one day she would definitely introduce them, wished Momo a good night, and hurried out, eager to meet Liwei. Amara made her way outside, searching for his car, but it was nowhere to be seen. Just as she was about to call him, a car hooted, and assuming it was him, she rushed toward it. Indeed, it was Liwei. Her stomach fluttered with butterflies as she got inside. The moment she saw him, it felt as though years had passed since they last met, and simply being in his presence filled her with joy. She looked at him, but as always he sat composed with an unreadable expression. She longed to throw herself into his arms, to hug him and tell him how much she had missed him, but she held back, knowing that he was not the type to openly express emotions. To break the silence, she remarked on the unfamiliar car, admitting that she had not recognized him because of it. Liwei explained that he had purchased a new vehicle so he could pick her up openly, since too many people were familiar with his other one, making it risky. Amara was stunned that he would buy a whole new car for what she considered a minor issue. He glanced at her again and asked if she was ready to go. She nodded, and they drove off. When they arrived at his house, Liwei turned to her and asked if she had eaten. She nodded and said she had eaten an early dinner. He looked at her intently and pointed out that this meant she must already be hungry. Before she could respond, he instructed her to sit down and made his way into the kitchen. Amara watched as he carefully cut fruits into small pieces for her. She thought about how handsome he looked and how, despite his cold exterior, he had his own way of showing care. She thought about the little things, how he was preparing fruit for her now, how he had walked openly in public with the love bites she had left on his neck, how he would secretly hold her hand in the presence of others to reassure her of his presence. All of it made her blush and filled her heart with warmth. When he returned, he placed the bowl of fruit in front of her and told her to eat. He sat beside her, watching her as she slowly picked at the pieces. To him, there was something about her that stilled the chaos inside him, as though her presence quieted the storms within. The closer he sat to her, the more he wanted to pull her closer, to touch her, to hold her tightly, to let himself be consumed by her. Yet fear lingered, for he knew that the moment he gave in, he would lose all sense of control, over himself and over the purpose that had brought him back to China in the first place. Suddenly, Amara held out a grape toward his lips, startling him from his thoughts. Startled, he asked what she was doing, and she told him she wanted to feed him. He looked at her, trying to gauge her seriousness, then looked away and said he was fine. She pleaded with him, reminding him that he had forcefully cut the fruits for her and insisted that he did not need to act tough around her. She teased that he could be her little baby and she would never judge him. Liwei chuckled faintly at the remark, and Amara stared at him in surprise, asking if he had just laughed. He looked back at her and asked if letting her feed him would finally make her stop talking so much. Amara smiled and nodded eagerly. Maintaining his composure, he allowed her to go ahead. Amara's excitement lit up her face as she moved closer, feeding him piece after piece. He studied her as she beamed with happiness over such a simple act, wondering why she found joy in something so small. Breaking the silence, he asked why she was so happy just to feed him fruit. Amara explained that she knew he secretly enjoyed it even if he did not admit it, and that anything making him happy made her happy too. She said that as long as she could put a smile on his face, she would always be content. Her words struck him deeply. He gazed into her eyes, feeling the weight of her sincerity. His heart wavered, emotions rushing through him despite his attempts to suppress them. Unable to resist, he pulled her swiftly onto his lap, holding her close. Amara's heart thundered as she looked at him, unable to resist the pull either. He leaned closer, their eyes locked, and he confessed that he did not know what she had done to him, but that all he knew was that he never wanted her to leave his side. His hand moved to the back of her neck, caressing gently as he drew her closer until there was no space left between them. The tension between them grew thick, his breathing heavy as he forced himself to pull away. Amara, concerned, asked if he was all right. Still avoiding her eyes, Liwei admitted that he was afraid. She grew worried and asked what it was he feared. Turning back to her, his gaze intense, he confessed that he was afraid because once he began, he would not be able to stop, and once he could not stop, he would be drawn in completely. If that happened, she would have full hold over his heart, his entire being resting in her hands. Amara's expression faltered as she realized what he meant. She softly asked if he was afraid of falling too deeply in love with her. As she began to move away, he stopped her, pulling her back into his arms. Pressing his forehead against hers, he told her it was not what she thought, that there was much she did not know about him. Amara met his eyes steadily, insisting that he could tell her and that she would not judge him. Liwei hesitated, but she reminded him that she had chosen to step into his world fully aware of the risks, and that nothing he revealed would make her turn away. His thoughts raced wildly. Perhaps she believed the things she did not know about him were simple, but what she could not imagine was that the other side of him was a monster, ruthless enough to torture his enemies, a man who kept a prisoner caged like an animal. He wondered if she would still look at him with such softness if she knew all this. Amara's pleading gaze urged him to speak, but before he could respond, a sudden knock echoed at the door. Startled, they both turned toward it. Amara asked if he was expecting anyone, and Liwei shook his head. The knock came again, louder this time. Setting her aside gently, he stood and walked cautiously to the door. When he opened it, Ming stood there.